Hi, I'm Cameron.
Hi, I'm Cindy.
And welcome to Homeschool Roots. Okay, so today we're going to talk about homeschooling for men. And this is actually a topic that is not really addressed. More and more men are being the primary homeschooler, or they're obviously helping their wives with homeschooling. And I think there's some misconceptions for men that do homeschooling and just how to handle it. So I have some points that we want to talk about. So one of the first things that I learned when I became a teacher is to not use intimidation or use intimidation very sparingly. Here's the thing. I'm a 6'3" black guy. I thought, I'll just make them conform, and kids are smart, passive aggressive. So I'll show you what happens when you try to do intimidation. What's going on in here? Hey! What the heck is this?
What, I can't listen to music?
What are you supposed to be doing?
Math.
Okay, and what were you doing?
Music. I was listening to
Get back to work. I'm really getting tired of your excuses. Get back to work.
They're not excuses. I just don't understand math. Why won't you help me?
Well, because you're supposed to be looking at that. That's why I paid for that.
I don't want to watch the video.
I didn't ask you what you want. I said get back to work.
So if we take, this point
All
that
right.
where my mouse is right now, that is.
So you see what happened when I tried to do the intimidation? Oh, is he gonna probably try to hit me or anything? No. But did I accomplish my goal, which was to get him to work and to concentrate? No. Intimidation is a very, very short-term weapon. A lot of people like it because it's easy, but the reality is if you start using intimidation as your primary tool of discipline or to get them to do what they want to do, eventually they're always going to stand up to you, and then you're going to have to beat them down, and then they do it again. You have to beat them down even further. So, how far are you going to go? Are you going to just start throwing hands with your child? Right. So, I would strongly advise against intimidation as your primary discipline tool.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And, that's both for men and women. And if your discipline is always having to increase the penalty, that's no way to live in your home where it's just further threats and a bigger consequence or punishment. And it's true, I really believe the best discipline is a combination of both, reward and punishment, reward for good behavior and consequences for poor behavior. And that's true for men and women, but I think sometimes our society has pushed men into being more aggressive and dominating. And, we don't want to dominate our students. We don't want to dominate our children. We want them to feel a part of the family and that you are working toward a common goal, that child is going to have a wonderful, happy life full of opportunity and possibility, and many opportunities open to them because their schooling was adequate for them.
And another reason, let's be real, a lot of times people use intimidation is because it's easier. Yeah, it's right. Much easier to get back to work than to actually sit down and figure out why your child is not working and to convince them to work. Now, I am not a fan. I'll tell anybody in my classroom, the inmates do not run the asylum. But at the same time, so definitely there probably may be a point in some time you've got to just, they need to know that you are the boss. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, I have found that you don't. And you just have to figure out what the problem is. Why is Junior not working? Yeah. Is he tired? Does he not understand? He's embarrassed to tell you. And if you just create that environment of constant intimidation, or they're either going to become afraid of you or they're going to resent you. And you don't want that relationship with your child.
No. Again, like we've said in other videos, you know your child better than anyone else.
Amen.
And the question is to figure out why this behavior is coming out. Again, just like Cameron said, if it's because they don't understand and they either can't or don't want to admit that they don't know, you need to figure out. You're a detective also, in addition to being a teacher or an administrator. You're a detective, and you need to figure out what is really going on and to pay attention to what's happening with your child. But you know, like Cameron said, the threats and intimidation are really an easy way out, and they either become disingenuous, that your child knows you're not going to follow through on all these threats anyway, and you know, if you keep making threats, you don't want to follow through on all of them. And you know, if you're doing that, the child either comes to know that you don't mean what you say, or on the other end of the spectrum, the child is turned into someone that feels that nothing less than perfection is acceptable, and that is a terrible burden to put on anyone. And if you have lived through that yourself, where you never, you know, you felt like you would never be good enough and you couldn't please people anyway, it's very defeating. And it makes people quit trying because they feel like they'll never do it right anyway. There will always be, you know, you may do 9 things out of 10 right, and someone will only bring up the one that you didn't do perfectly. So you really want to figure out what's going on, not just look at symptoms.
Exactly. All right, number 2 is make sure you and your wife are on the same page when it comes to this. It is really important. Kids can be little manipulators. So if you just say, okay, well, what does your mom have you do? They're gonna say like the easiest part in it. And another thing is, when it comes to discipline, and we spoke about this in earlier videos, you've got to have a united front with your spouse, because kids can exploit that. And another thing is just for not even for discipline, but for their learning. If you and your wife are just not on the same page as something, it can really cause a lot of problems with when it's your turn to be the teacher.
Yes, communication is so important, and spouses or other family members maybe that are involved, everybody brings their personality to it. That's good. Variety is good for all of us, and to learn to get along, and to learn to express ourselves in positive, encouraging ways, even when the message maybe that we have to deliver is not the most positive, to learn to do it with love and compassion and thoughtfulness for the other person's feelings. And that's true whether you're a dad or a mom. And the idea of the family being unified, there is no substitute for that.
Amen. Okay, and another one that I think actually is probably the most important for some men is don't try to act like your wife when you are homeschooling, because I think some men have been so beat down and taught that masculinity is a bad thing. Mm-hmm. God gave a child a mother and a father. It's yin and yang. Your wife is probably going to be the more nurturing one, and maybe you will be the one that does have to enforce that discipline at that time. Just don't be afraid of your role, and don't try to act like something you're not, because it's just not gonna work. You have to be yourself. Mm-hmm. And so you have to teach the way that you know how. If you just try to act just like your wife, it's just gonna look weird, and your child's gonna be confused. And we want especially our boys, we want them to know that it is okay to be a man. It is okay to be masculine. Masculinity is not a bad thing.
That's right. I couldn't agree more. As a dad homeschooling, as a mom homeschooling, you have to be yourself and be true to your personality and the way you communicate, and don't try to fit into somebody else's mold.
Exactly. So, don't be afraid of teaching it. Oh, well, mommy does it. Okay, well, mommy's not here. This is how I'm doing it, and you're going to learn how to do it this way, so then you know how to do it in particular ways, not just the way that mommy does it. And your child needs to learn that, because not everybody is going to do things the same way, and they need to learn how to be adaptable. Okay, so the last and another important one is to make sure you're prepared. guys, you can't just roll out of bed and start going to the classroom. You wouldn't do that for your job. This is a job, so you need to be prepared. And the most important thing is, as men, I can say as a male teacher, one of the most important things is I want my students to respect me. And the number one way I do that is to make sure that I am prepared. Because especially as your children get older, they will test you. And so if you're just I don't know, like, they're gonna lose a little bit of respect for you because they think, why am I taking orders from this guy if he doesn't even know?
Right.
And you probably do the same thing. I mean, we've all had that boss that probably shouldn't have been there and didn't know what they were doing. And how much respect did we have for that? So if you want your kids to respect you, you need to be prepared. You need to know what you're going to be teaching. You need to prepare yourself for the typical questions that your child may ask. Now, if it's to the point where your kid is always trying to trip you up, then that's another issue. And that means the respect has already degraded. And so that's something that you are going to have to work with your child on.
I think it's so important, just like Cameron was saying, the preparation. To me, if you're not preparing and you're just kind of wandering in there, you don't see yourself as an expert teacher. You see yourself as a babysitter.
Exactly.
And as a homeschooling parent, your role is much greater than a child care provider. Yes, you want the children safe and to have a good environment, but you are there for learning. You are there to expand their horizons, for them to master material, for you to learn something together. I've learned so much myself in homeschooling and been reminded of the education that I had myself. What a great gift it is, and every great gift deserves to be held in esteem. And you need to esteem yourself as a teacher, and that you have something to offer to your children, your students, that no one else can give them.
Exactly. And so that's why it's just really important that you try to just do your best. Now, we all are going to make mistakes. No teacher is perfect, and don't feel inadequate because you did not know the answer. And don't be afraid to say, if they're asking a question, I don't know, son, I don't know, daughter, let me just look this up and we can figure it out. Now, of course, you shouldn't be saying that all the time, but occasionally, I don't see anything wrong with that. It doesn't make you any less of a teacher because you got tripped up. And again, now, if your child is always trying to trip you up, then that's a discipline issue. And that means that something happened a while ago. And also, this goes to the point of being on board with this with your spouse, because if you're just doing it because your wife browbeat you into accepting it, and then okay, well, now it's your turn because it's her day off, and you're grudgingly doing it, your child is going to see that. So it's really important that family unity is something that we really emphasize on Homeschool Roots. And this is just another example of why it's so important that you and your spouse are on the same page when it comes to this.
Yes, it is. And I loved what you said about being willing to say, I don't know. The older children get, the more involved they can be in finding those answers. You can both research and come up with possible answers to whatever question that you're talking about. And as they get older, you might even be able to have a debate back and forth that, your children aren't always going to see everything the same way you do. And it's good for them to be able to research and articulate a well thought out position, even if it's different from your own. It's not acceptable just to say, well, that's just the way I feel about it. That's just what I believe. You should be able to articulate your position on how you arrived at that particular belief. And your child needs to be able to do the same thing. They will be far more likely to hold on to their basic beliefs, if they really are their beliefs, later in life, if they've been able to explore, to research, and have to give an answer for why they hold a certain position.
And then another thing that's really important, I think one of the best reasons to homeschool is it's not just about academics. You get to teach your child your values. Children that have a father in the home, they know how to delay gratification. They know how they understand the value of hard work. They're more likely to stay married themselves. I mean, the rule. One thing that really hurts my heart is how I feel like our society is just beat on men and dads. And you are so important. You're not just the leader of your home, that you are the shepherd of your home. And I don't mean just being bossy and like I'm the man. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you have a chance to make sure that your little girl or your little boy grows up to be a responsible adult who can be either a leader or a good a shepherd or anything in our society. And you get a chance to do that, and by teaching your values to your children. And that's one of the big advantages, as opposed to them going to a secular school where they just teach from to a test or teach from a curriculum.
Yes. So important to remember, you are not raising only a student or a scholar.
Amen.
You are raising a global citizen, someone who will take their place in history, someone who could change the course of the world, who may make an invention or a discovery, or move us forward in art and literature and as a statesman. There has never been a greater need in the world for educated, well-spoken people to stand up for principles.
Character.
And yes, you are raising the leaders of the next generation.
And as Christians, I can tell you, I grew up in California. I'm not saying everybody, but there's just so many educated fools out there that just have this idea. They think they know everything. But if you don't have any character, and Cindy and I were talking about this before the video, if, for example, if your spouse can't trust you, we can't trust you. And you don't get written in deals if you're not trustworthy. You are not worthy of trust. Why should I trust you if you just see a woman as a means to an end? Why should I trust you if I know that you're the kind of person that cuts and runs as soon as it gets difficult? These are the things that, as a homeschooler, you get a chance to make sure that your child understands the importance of character. I would take a fence builder, for example. I'd rather work with a fence builder than an educated doctor that cheats on his wife. But I'd rather take a fence builder that has honor and integrity, of course, depending upon what it is. But I mean, the importance of character just cannot be emphasized enough when it comes to success. And that's the point, right? We want our children to be successful. That's why you're watching this video. You want your child to be successful, and you have this goal and opportunity. So I think that's pretty much, we covered everything.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to say thank you so much. And make sure you subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Bye.
Bye.